What's up, guys? JJ here, back with another YouTube video. I hope you all are having a great day. I know that I am. Today's video is going to be on drug addiction, and more so what drug addiction is like from an addict's perspective, like what was my experience with it. And I'm going to be going into detail on the mind and the body of a drug addict and what separates us from normal people. And I'm going to present it to y'all in the same way that it was presented to me when I was in rehab. A lot of this probably is not going to make sense to y'all, and it's going to seem like a lot of crazy nonsense, and that's because addiction really is just a bunch of crazy nonsense that doesn't really actually make a lot of sense. A lot of times it doesn't even make sense to me, but I know that these things are true. I'm going to try and be as detailed as possible, and hopefully y'all will learn a little bit about this, because I feel like there is a lot of false information out there. Like, a lot of people who aren't addicts try and tell everyone what addiction is like and what it is, and I'm sorry, but they have no idea. So we're gonna start with the two qualifying questions. These qualified questions, like, if you can answer them honestly and they're true for you, then yeah, you're probably an addict, but I can't call it. So the first question is, when I put one in me, when I put one Xanax or one drink in me, Xanax was my drug of choice, but I'll use other examples. When I put one drink in me or one Xanax in me, can I call my numbers? You know, like, for instance, like a normal person who maybe has a prescription to Xanax, they take one and they'll stop at one. Versus me, when I take one, it's never enough, and I'll take more and more and more and more, and I won't stop taking more until I black out or die, or, you know, some cause out there forces me to stop. You know, that could be going to jail. For me, every single time it was just blacking out. So can you call your numbers? If you take one drink, you know, a lot of people go out and drink, and they decide they're gonna have 3 beers, or they decide they're gonna have like upwards of 6 and to 10 and get drunk, but they'll stop at a certain number, right? They'll actually stop before they black out or before they go to jail. They will stop drinking. And the second qualifying question is, can you manage the decision to stay stopped from drugs and alcohol? So when I wake up after a blackout and I feel like shit, and I have these consequences from the night before, I've spent all my money, my family's mad at me, I decide, when I tell myself, I'm never going to use Xanax again, I'm never going to use drugs again, and I'm telling you in that moment, I mean it, but can I actually manage that decision? And most of the time, actually never, I am able to manage that decision. And at any given time, I will start using again. You know, normal people black out off Xanax and alcohol too. Normal people have horrible experiences, especially with Xanax, because the line between the recreational dose and actually blacking out is so thin, and normal people have bad experiences on all the time, and guess what? They stop. They don't ever use it again. Versus me, I will use it again and again, no matter how many consequences, how many bad experiences I've had. So those are the two qualifying questions. So now I'm going to go into the body side of things. I'm going to take a drink of water real quick. Oh, dude, I swear to God, water just slaps so hard sometimes. Good drink. Sorry. So we're gonna get into the body side of the addiction. Addiction is in 2 parts. There's a mind side and a body side. It's a 2-part illness. And so on the body side, we have what's called an allergy to drugs and alcohol, and that's just the way we put it, because it kind of makes sense. I don't know if it's actually scientifically an allergy, but all the allergy means is we have an abnormal reaction to drugs and alcohol versus normal people. Again, this allergy is what's called the phenomenon of craving, which all that means is a need for more, like I just got done talking about with the first question. This need for more, when I put one Xanax in me, it will never be enough. I would always buy anywhere from 6 to 10 4-milligram hulks of Xanax, and every single morning I'd wake up, they'd all be gone. And not only that, I would have gone to buy more. You know, 1 is never enough, 2 is never enough, 3 is never enough, and so on and so on. It's never enough, and I will keep using until I die, or until something stops me from using more, like blacking out, or for a lot of people, going to jail. I've never been to jail. So I have this phenomenon of craving, right? And the moment I put one Xanax in me, I'm off on a spree, okay? That spree can last from anywhere from hours, days, weeks, months. I think the longest spree I had was upwards of 2 weeks. I was in a Xanax blackout. I don't actually know the amount of time because, well, I was blacked out. We call that time traveling. And so I'm off on this spree. Now, at the end of every single spree I would have, I'm telling you, it was so awful coming out of it. I felt so bad. I would tell myself, I'm never doing this again. Like, especially Xanax. I would just say, okay, I'm just never going to do Xanax again. Like, I don't have fun. I don't even know what Xanax is like. The only thing I know is I black out and I do a lot of bad shit that gets me in a lot of trouble. So I would tell myself, I'm never going to do it again. And I'm telling you, if you hooked me up to a polygraph test, I mean that shit. So the question is, like, why does an addict do it again? Why do they continue to go back to it when they know that bad stuff happens? I have never taken Xanax and not blacked out and not have something bad happen to me. Never. Never in my life. I've not had one good experience. So I know only bad things happen. So why do I do it again? Why does an alcoholic go back to it after he has 3 DUIs and has been to jail X amount of times and has beat the crap out of his wife or whoever? Like, why do they continue to go back to it? That is the biggest question, because if you look at the body side with this allergy and you know that this is true about you, it seems like a simple answer. Just don't ever do it. Just don't ever do it again. So how do they get to that first use? Like, what leads them to that? And that is the mind side of things. And I'm going to try and be as detailed as possible. This is kind of where things get a little, I don't even know if it's confusing. It just like kind of doesn't make sense, especially to normal people. It makes sense to me because I've experienced this, but to people who aren't addicts, it doesn't always make sense. So on the mind side of things, I have what's called an obsession to drugs and alcohol. And this obsession is a thought that crowds out all other thoughts. And the obsession is specifically that I can control and enjoy my drug use like normal people. We'll just leave it as I can control and enjoy my drug use. So to kind of explain how the obsession works and to give you an example of what that looks like. So I had been separated from Xanax for about a month. The last spree I had on it, it was so bad I told myself I was never going to do it again, and I meant it. So I hadn't used it in a month. I was out on a walk. There was nothing weird about that day. It was a normal day. It was like a really beautiful night. I was gonna go in after this walk and play video games. And I'm out on a walk listening to music, and all of a sudden, this is the best way I can explain it, a thought slips into my head. The thought was taking Xanax and playing video games would be chill. Just like that. Just that quick. And boom, I was obsessing about it from that moment. I wasn't, once the thought slipped in, I'll go into more detail on some of my thought processes, my thought process kind of after the obsession hit, when I get to the delusion part of things. But after the obsession kicks in, I'm hitting up my dealers. I'm trying to find Xanax, and I wasn't able to get any that night. And I had to wait a whole 24 hours before I could actually get Xanax. And the entire 24 hours, I was obsessing. I was obsessing so hard. I could barely sleep. From how hard I was obsessing about taking Xanax. And I'm telling you, like, not any other thoughts came into my head. Like, the entire time, I'm just thinking about taking Xanax that night. So I had this obsession, right? And this obsession eventually, it leads into a delusion. And a delusion is just a lie that I buy. And the lie that I buy every time is that I can use drugs like normal people. I can take a Xanax like a normal person who has a prescription, who isn't an addict and just takes 1 or 2. Maybe they take a higher dose to feel a little something, but they take that much and then they stop. And I will buy this lie every time, and these lies will come in forms of a peculiar mental twist. We call that a PMT. And the PMT is an insane thought turned sane, right? And so I'll give you some examples of my PMTs. So for that one that night when I was obsessing, the PMT was, oh, you have anxiety, so you can take a Xanax. And the reason that's insane is because I know every time I take a Xanax, I black out and my phenomenon of craving kicks in, and I spend hundreds of dollars on Xanax and have all these consequences. I know that every time I do that, but I'm still buying this lie. I'm extremely delusional around it, right? Like, and another PMT that I had was, your dog just died, so you need to take a Xanax. It's okay. Another one was, if I eat a bunch of food before I take the Xanax, I won't black out, because I'd always take Xanax on an empty stomach. I'd actually always take any drug on an empty stomach. And I told myself, if I eat a lot of food, I won't black out this time. Just crazy shit. But I'm telling you, that lie, I will eat that shit up. I will believe the hell out of it. And we can also have another kind of form of delusion, is what's called estrangement of blank spot. And the best way I can explain it is like, all of a sudden I take drugs. No thoughts come into my head. Like, I'm just driving to the dope house to get drugs, and I'm not even thinking about anything. I'm not thinking about the consequences that could happen. I'm not lying to myself or anything. I'm just driving, and my brain is just blank, and then all of a sudden I've taken drugs. And I know that seems so crazy, like there's no way that someone's brain can work like that, but I'm telling you, that's how it works. And I had a lot of strange mental blank spots where all of a sudden I woke up the next day and I was like, how the fuck did I get here again? How did I black out again? Like, I don't even remember wanting to do this. And both of those delusions, the PMTs and the strange mental blank spot, would lead me to that first use. I put that first Xanax in me, and what happens when I put that in me? It sets off my allergy, my phenomenon of craving is kicked off, my need for more, I'm off on a spree, and I'm telling you, it's this never-ending cycle of obsessing, and then using, and then allergy, and it's just this constant cycle of never-ending doom, and it's crazy. It really is. It is a form of insanity. If, like, addiction is a mental health problem, and it is insane. And that is honestly the best way that I feel like it can be explained to someone. A lot of times when I present addiction in this way to people who aren't addicts, it just doesn't make sense. And I'm sorry if that didn't. It seemed like a whole lot of nonsense, but like, really what you can take out of it, addiction is insane. And it's really scary, and there really isn't any form of cure for it. There obviously people do get sober, but most people actually don't get sober. It's really sad, because of how, like, because eventually, like I said, in the mind, like, you will start obsessing again. Okay, I like, the obsession will come back. It can come back at any random moment. You can try and do things, therapy and AA and things to fight it off, but eventually you're gonna obsess about drugs again. And if you don't, then you're just a really lucky person. But that is how drug addiction works, at least for me, and I know a lot of other addicts would agree. That's a pretty good that's like the best way that we could present the drug addiction to people. I hope you guys learned something from this. If you're battling with drug addiction yourself, please feel free to send me a DM or leave me a comment. I would love to be able to help you out. Do not be scared to reach out. Okay, I had to do it when I was really sick. So yeah, that's all I got for you guys today. Hope you have a good day. Please like, comment, subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.